So I have yet to enter that world, but you know, you never know.
Well, thanks for introducing yourself and sharing, and you're welcome. And it's putting out your honesty is very much appreciated. Who else would want to talk about their experience or connection or questions?
This will be a round 2 comment. Are we up to round 2?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Well, I live up in Beverly, Massachusetts, so I didn't introduce myself earlier. Alan Feldman. I'm an active member of my synagogue up in Gloucester, but we're a little bit isolated in this corner of Boston, and find myself, especially, I'm very active in J Street, so I find myself in Boston, Cambridge, Brookline a lot, and would be interested in knowing if there are Mussar activities elsewhere. I don't know of any Mussar activities here on the North Shore, but would be interested in Mussar activities or Mussar groups that exist. So Mitch is nodding over there, and I assume, Mitch, that you're somewhere near the Boston area, so maybe you could give me some guidance.
So just a quick response. I used to live in Danvers, so I was a neighbor. And when I was VP at Endicott College a long time ago, but
Dick Wiley, I suppose.
with the late great, unfortunately, and as I said earlier, there are many Chavruta Mussar study groups in the area, and one thing that Hebrew College has been really good at is if someone's interested in a particular geography, trying to find a teacher out there. So you might reach out to them. I can't remember the particular office at Hebrew College, but Michael may actually know.
The Open Circle system. Open Circle allows anyone who wants to find a group and a teacher come together. And the CJP region now reaches into the North Shore, so I think we're servicing that region as well.
Which region? I'm sorry, which region is that?
The North Shore.
Yes, the Combined Jewish Philanthropy is now reaching the North Shore.
Oh, yes, absolutely. No, we're part of it.
Are you? Which temple in Beverly?
I'm not in I belong to the temple up in Gloucester.
Oh, you said Gloucester. That's right. Yeah. So
I'm going to interrupt, guys. So you guys go offline.
We'll do this offline.
I'm glad that we empowered you and that you are going to, come back and do a second version of this, something like that. But
yeah, we'll do it offline.
This is our first one tonight, and a few people I know in Philly might want to say something. There's Mark Jacobs, Joseph August, and I was hoping that people could just sort of say that who are doing some Mussar things, that like in your daily activities, Herb alluded to something about his work situation, or maybe in your family situation, or just in your own prayer, or anything at all. Like, was there a moment where you stopped and something about Mussar helped you, guided you in some way? And I'll share one if no one goes for it, but I hope other people can share something about what Mussar has meant in their activity and what methodology. Was it, you look at the books, there's contemplative things, there's chanting, there's diary keeping, cheshbon nefesh, there's something about some system that you thought was particularly valuable, and I bet it's different for different people. And then people who are just questioning what's this all about, and if we each share just a little snippet, then people can get the flavor of the richness of it. So I'm going to put Yosef August on if no one else volunteers to speak. Who wants to share anything?
I'm happy to share something.
Please do.
So in the Mussar Vad that I'm in, Vad is the word we use for the group. Chavruta is the word we use for a dyad. So in the Mussar Vad that I was in 4 or 5 years ago, the teacher was talking to a gentleman who had a wife who was a difficult person, complained a lot, and was basically negative in her outlook. And she gave him an assignment, which was to write down every day 5 things that he was grateful for about her that day. And I heard that, and I said, well, this couldn't hurt. I have a wonderful wife who is a very forgiving and compassionate person, not a negative person. What will happen if I do this? And I just did that for 2 years as a practice. Every day I woke up, I went through the alphabet. I mean, I tried to keep it, how am I going to think of new things to say that I'm grateful for? And I have to say that, you know, we've been married 45 years, but the last 5 years have been incredible. What I learned through Mussar and through this gratitude list was to put her first in a way I had never put her first. The essence of Rabbi Stone's Mussar teaching, which he gets from one of the Eastern European schools, the Mussar yeshiva that was in Kelm, is that we acquire Torah by bearing the burden of others. We acquire Torah by serving others, by being responsible for them. And pretty much in Rabbi Stone's version of Mussar, every midah comes down to, are you practicing this? If you're practicing this, you're getting out of your own way and you're making room for someone else, and you're helping to make yourself a vehicle to serve that person. Clearly you need self-care, and so we don't serve others unless we've already learned to care for ourselves. And balancing self-care with care of others is crucial. But for me, this gratitude practice was transformative. Before that, I had focused primarily on my deficits, on my faults. And while that was also really enlightening, it's hard to keep going to that well. Gratitude brought me into a new, and I've seen with my students, it brings you into a new frame of mind. And at that point, we introduce a new text that talks about how to imitate God. Because God says, you know, the Chumash is predicated, the Torah is predicated on, I am holy, for you shall be holy. So what does that mean? What's the roadmap for how to do that? So that's what we're doing in the second 2 years of our 4-year curriculum, is learning the ins and outs of emulating what we say about God and trying to practice that. It's pretty challenging and wonderful. So I guess to answer Michael's question, you know, where do you go? It really depends. As Elliot said, every one of these programs has a flavor, and the website should be the best place to get that flavor. Greg Marcus wants to do it without Hebrew terms. That's his thing. Rabbi Stone and the Center for Contemporary Mussar want to do it through intensive study of traditional texts. Alan Marinas is somewhere in between the two in that sense, using Hebrew, but the text study is snippets of text rather than a whole book, say. So you find those things out, and then you go and search for the teacher. And I guess the thing I want to say, Michael, you alluded to this, you can create a lot of intimacy in this online conversation on Zoom. Our classes are divided between a shiur, the lesson part, the cognitive part, the intellectual part, and then the vad, which is somebody sharing something from their life and doing a process around it. And if someone's making themselves vulnerable in the presence of other people online, it creates intimacy, there's no question. So, is it the same as being in a room with people? No. But it's pretty close. Dibarti.
I just would like to kind of add to that a little. One of the things, the gems that I think Alan Moranis provide, and he led a Shabbaton in Newton a couple of years ago, is this idea that just the study of character traits, just the study of Mussar, is a holy practice, and that so many of us as Jews, or perhaps not as Jews, are looking for an understanding of what is holy, and this reflective practice of ourselves and our character without judgment, because that's for me, that's my key, is how do we do it without judging good or bad, rather just noticing where we are, and that's the gentler practice for me, is a holy practice. And that's, I think sometimes we think being holy, practicing something holy is complicated, and we get in our own way overthinking it. I find Mussar has, just like meditation can have its very complex aspects. I also think we can dip our toe into it, take a very Nakshon kind of moment, and step into the water, and either go all the way up till it's over our heads and the water opens up for us, or just try it on a little bit. And taking the step of being willing to kind of reflect is such a holy practice. It's also one of those practices that Alan suggests doesn't just need to be a group of Jewish, in our case, Jewish men together. It can be anything. Whereas perhaps study of Torah or study of Psalms, if it's particularly Jewish, we might want to have a group of just Jewish people studying it. He likes to think of this as a real open practice, although be it both intellectual and then very intimate, Herb, as you talk about. I would love to explore the how that feels in a Zoom forum.
Yeah, I have had in my VOD non-Jews and people who've converted to Judaism, the whole range.
So
it's Mark Jacobs.
Go.
You mentioned my name, and I was hesitant to say much because, unfortunately, my technical problems, I wasn't able to hear the initial presentation. I ran into Mussar in some presentations that our Rabbi, Sean Zevet, and his wife, Simcha, put on a few Shabbats. Found it very interesting. I've done a little study of Marinovitz, and what I found was that the entire what it does is it gives a set of guides and a set of watch points and a set of categories to kind of plug into what I'm living with each day. And I wish I had said that I've stayed with it, but I'm very aware of it and what I've learned. And so that's just where I'm at. I'm also very involved in the Wisdom Council for Menschwork, and I'm always interested in how we develop things just like this webinar and other things that might be of service. And I think if there's interest, I'd be willing to help us explore. Can we arrange a teacher and a Menschwork-sponsored Mussar group on Zoom? It's a thought, and if men are interested in it, please get in touch with us and let me know, and we'll see what we can do to create something. It won't happen in 2 weeks, but it might happen over some time. And I think the Zoom format is great. It gets even greater. I just realized, and I'm not even pictured. It gets even greater when we can see each other. It's far more personal. But I'd be very willing to work with people and try. I'm no leader for Mussar. I'm not nearly knowledgeable enough. But if we could find a leader, find some people, market it through, our long list of JMR Menschwork men, maybe we could really get a class that is on Zoom and self-sustaining. So I'll be interested to hear your interest in that. DeBarty.